Good morning, everybody. Protecting our water sources isn't something that we should do. It's not something we should aspire to do. It's something that we have to do. And it's something that we're doing in the National Federation of Group Water Schemes. This is an image of a project we're working on in County Roscommon. Thomas Rush, our Group Water Scheme Manager, with some of the local farmers that we got involved, who fenced off sinking streams, swallow holes as well. And as you can see from the photograph there, there's a great sense of pride amongst the farms that are taking place in this project. This is also an image of one of our group water schemes in Mid Roscommon, Noel Carroll, a fantastic community person, well respected in his local area as well, speaking with a local farmer, David Nally. And we had issues with runoff from one of David's field and from the neighbouring farmers' fields as well. So we spoke with David, showed him the scientific evidence, showed him the results, and David has come on board as well to help protect our local water source. So you can see there very clearly the images of a before and after. The approach that we're taking in the National Federation of Water Schemes is very much a nature-based approach. All of our measures, our mitigation measures, take into consideration biodiversity, sustainability and climate as well. And this follows the format that was kind of introduced or highlighted by Inform Michigan in 2020. As I said, it's very much a part of our approach as well. When we're developing our frameworks, we would have spoken about last year's conference, and many people who are listening today are very much aware of the approach that we're taking. We developed a framework, we have plans, we have measures, we use PIP maps as well provided by the EPA, and we use a lot of our areas are highlighted through scientific data, and that's the approach that we have to take. But it's also very, very important to acknowledge the next step in the process as well, which is engaging with the local community. And to do that, we can't just take a science-based approach. You know, it's important that our actions are based on science, but the approach that we take when we're speaking to our people in the community, it's very, very different. And you can see here, this is parts 1 and 2 of the integrated catchment management approach, which highlights the importance to build partners, identify key stakeholders, identify issues of concern, conduct public outreach, and create and communicate a vision of integrated catchment management. And that's what we've tried to do in Roscommon. We've tried to build a narrative around what's best for the community. And we've introduced a project called the Let It Be project, which I'll talk about later on, which has really got the community engaged and highlighted a lot of actions in the area. We decided to develop I suppose, a 3-tier approach to our community engagement. As I said before, the approach that we're taking when developing our plans is very, very scientific. It's a very much a scientific approach. Whereas the engagement process as well with our community members follows a process as well. We wanted to build partnerships, create and communicate a vision, and have direct actions. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to be concentrating really on the farmers' actions, but we also have other actions in the community as well, which look after forestry, which look after things such as septic tanks as well. And again, it's all about highlighting problems that we have and putting the correct measure, the correct place, the correct time. So the narrative we use when we go out speaking to people in the community is much, much more than water. On the right hand side of our image here on the screen is our All About Water book, which again follows a scientific approach. It's important to teach children the importance of water, where it comes from, how it gets to their tap, and the science behind it, the treatment process. We've also introduced a biodiversity element to what we're trying to achieve in the Federation as well, along with climate, which our two development officers, Adrian and Roisin, are very much pushing out. And again, trust and confidence plays a very significant role in this process. One of our first action items is to bring together people of different knowledge types. And this isn't anything new to the Federation. You know, throughout the years, our approach has been based on partnerships, be it with local authorities or department levels. Everything we do has a partnership approach for the betterment of the local communities. And the group water scheme members and boards very much operate the same way as well. Effective communication to the audience is very much at the heart of what we're trying to achieve as well. If we go out with a scientific paper to somebody on the ground, it might be difficult for them to follow, but if we explain it in a clear and simple way, but still give the scientific basis to what we're trying to achieve, people can understand it better as well. We know from speaking to farmers there are different motivating factors. What motivates them to get work done on the ground? It could be protecting their family, it could be for biodiversity, it could be to protect the water, protect the local community. And I'll discuss some of these as the project goes on. Some of the pictures that we have here, some of the images are some of the partners that we've worked with throughout the project. We have group water scheme managers, board members, our federation offices, local authority staff, ASAP advisors, and people in local marts as well. So again, we're trying to include everybody in this project, because the more people that are included, the easier it will for us to get buy-in in the local communities. This is an image of Seán Corrigan, one of our managers in Glencreds, and this is a project we're working on now. I suppose it's phase 2 or implementation. It's a project which is funded by the Department of Agriculture. And Seán is on the catchment here. I was out with him there a few weeks ago, and he has a PIP map. And these maps show preferential flows across the catchment. They highlight areas where there are potential problems with nutrients. And our catchment walks go out and validate that. So we go out then and speak to the farmers, talk to them, listen to their concerns as well, and come up with agreed plans. The 2 maps that we have here highlight smart buffer zone areas. They highlight fencing along rivers as well. They also identify preferential flows, and this, coupled with the data that we have on water sampling across the catchment, makes it very easy for us to talk to farmers in a non-accusation way. You know, we feel that the farmers understand what we're trying to achieve, and the feedback that we receive back from the farmers as well know that we're doing something for the betterment of the community and not just pointing the finger. Plus, we're coming up with solutions, which is the most important part. Identifying key farmers and leaders, influences, and starting to work with them is really, really important. One of our first farmers that got involved in the Let It Be project is Edward Payne from Hilltop Dairies in County Roscommon. He put up a post on social media. Farmer 1 here, farmer 2, 3 saw it. They chatted to other farmers, and their neighbours got involved. And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people in the community talking about what we're trying to achieve. And the narrative that we're doing is much more than water as well. It's about bettering their community from every perspective. So we know that the more engaged the farmer is, the more likely that there'll be environmental spillover. And we managed and ran a Let It Be project. One of the first schemes to take up this project was the Corrigan Group Water Scheme, and they have a number of beekeeping families involved. And Thomas Rush was at the heart of championing this project in his local community. And you can see from the map there, there's yellow dots there where our beehives are placed. The bees fly in a radius of 3 miles from the hive. The red outline area is the catchment area. So the narrative was, what happens to the bees will happen to your water as well. If you put pesticides out, it will harm your bees. If you put in riparian zones along water courses, it will provide a habitat for your bees to live, but it will also protect your water. And we found this process worked particularly well in the Corrigan area. Thomas, again, not everybody can have beehives. Thomas went out and spoke to the HSC, who run a workshop for people who have mental health needs. The people attending the workshop are making bee hotels, which will be provided to every family across the group water scheme again. So again, it's about informing everybody what they can do. Not everybody can have a beehive, but everybody can have an impact on protecting the local water source. Here's one of our beehives again. It's the Corrigan scheme. The top right-hand picture there on your screen is Thomas Rush at the local group water scheme well, or the local water well actually, which was people sourced in many, many years before the group water scheme came on. And in the same field, there's wild meadow flowers now, and there's beehives as well. It's creating a talking point in the community. And that's what we want to do. You know, water is very much a hidden resource. There's no problem until the water is gone. But when it's gone, it's everybody's problem. Law Pro have actually got involved as well, and they're sponsoring beekeepers in the Eme Valley Group Water Scheme. So the project is gathering legs. You know, Irish Water have got involved in Newport as well. We have other schemes across the county. And again, it's to create a narrative to get people interested, to get people involved. The project was recognised in Europe and a couple of awards actually. It won the European Bee Award, and we would have been invited over to speak in the European Parliament last Christmas, only for COVID-19. So we're very proud of that. The judges thought that the project, which came first place out of, I think it was 27 entrants, could be replicated very easily and scaled very easily as well. And it changed people's mindsets on what they were trying to achieve for the promotion of biodiversity and the protection of water as well. The project was also placed 3rd in the Cooperatives Society European Awards there recently as well. So, you know, we're very proud that our project is being recognised at European level. But I suppose we're more proud of the uptake that we have on the ground and the impact it's having on our local group water scheme sources. Snowdon Group Water Scheme, and in particular Ross McDonald, is taking the project one step further. He's gone out talking to farmers in his own catchment as well, and they've highlighted 27 farmers within a certain area that have boom sprayers. They're working with the farmers to calibrate the boom sprayers to retrofit low drift nozzles as well, so they're reducing the inputs, but they're also getting out there and talking to farmers, explaining what's happening, when they spray pesticides on their land and the impact that it will have on their local water source. So again, it's about communicating with people and finding a narrative that will suit everybody that they talk with as well. And there's a win-win situation. Here the farmer wins because he's getting his boom sprayer calibrated. The group water scheme wins because we're reducing the inputs that can get to our local water sources. We know from our research as well that adults receive most of their environmental education through local media channels or social media channels. And we have carried out projects in Roscommon through radio, newspapers, advertising at marts. Noel Carroll championed a project that I'll talk about in a few minutes. At local schools, I planted a tree in my garden, is pesticide free. And he also has water stations up across his own group water scheme as well, which show the catchment, which show the areas that are affected, that water gathers from, to provide water to the local group water scheme. As I said there, we've developed education programs that children carry home the message, and we know children carry home the message to parents, to grandparents, to uncles, to aunts, to neighbours. You know, we know this. I have 2 children at home myself, and they're always quick to tell you about recycling, turning the taps off, what you should be doing to protect the local environment. And this program was run out across all of the national schools in County Roscommon, with Catherine Finlay here from Roscommon County Council, who is a real champion for the group water schemes at a local level, and has done tremendous work in the source protection project across Roscommon, with Noel Carroll, the Mid Roscommon Group Water Scheme Manager. Now, we also know as well that we want to publicise these programs, but we know that education alone will not bring behaviour change, but we know it's an important step. The children in the project across County Roscommon planted 8,500 trees, 88 schools out of 91 got involved. They received literature on how to do gardening in their garden without using pesticides, and the importance of biodiversity. They received certificates and stickers for their bins as well. So it was a very successful project that was highlighted and received an awful lot of local coverage. Again, it was bringing to the forefront the importance of our local group water scheme sources, but it was including the narrative of biodiversity and bees and the importance of them to our local community as well and local economy. As part of the project, we did a survey, and we received 1,000 responses back. The surveys went out to schools across the county, and we asked some of the questions. We asked people, did they use pesticide in a domestic setting? Nearly 70% of people did. I suppose on a positive element of that 70%, 99% of the 70% that responded said they were going to change their behaviour to either reduce, stop, take greater care, and only 1% that they will continue to use pesticides in the same way. So again, we know that education doesn't necessarily lead to behaviour change, but it's a very important step. An interesting figure we got back, and I suppose it builds into our narrative about the Let It Be project as well. If you don't use pesticides, or if you reduce your pesticide usage, which is the highest motivating factor? And the highest motivating factor we found across Roscommon for the 1,000 people who responded in our survey was to protect the bees. That was 42%. 25% said to protect their water source, and 25% said to protect the health of their family. So bees are a very important narrative, and it goes back to on forums Ishka's diagram there. Everything that we do has an impact on our water source, and everything we do has an impact on biodiversity, air as well. An important figure we got back as well from our survey was how people receive their information locally. And Facebook accounted for 60% of the way people receive their knowledge at a local level. So this is something we weren't aware of really in the Federation for a while. We are aware of it now, and Mark Varley, our new communications officer, uses this on a very regular basis to get information out to local communities. And it's something as well local group water schemes should look at using even more often. As engagement starts, uncertainty with the farmer is at its lowest. As the trust develops, certainty rises, and bespoke information is key. I suppose I had some of these pictures up earlier on, some of these maps, and you know, we go in and we speak to farmers, and having the group water scheme manager or board member beside us as we walk into a field, it's so critical, and it cannot be underestimated how important this is. Going in as an unknown person into a catchment, there's very little trust there, but if you walk in beside somebody on a group water scheme board, the trust has been built up already down through the years. People know people, they know their neighbours, and if we go in there with our scientific information, and as we engage with the farming community as well, tell them exactly what the problems are and talk to them about solutions and map solutions down, give them exact information of what has to be done, the trust rises. But this all takes time. but it's something that has to be done. You cannot just go out, print a report, expect things to be implemented. The implementation stage of any of these programs is extremely difficult, and trust is key. As I said, that's how important the group water scheme boards are and managers. They're trusted figures in their local communities, and that cannot be underestimated. You don't have to start big either. You know, starting small can lead to outcomes which can be built upon. In Corrigan, we started off with a number of people getting beehives through Thomas Rush's hard work, and the Corrigan Group Water Scheme through his interactions with the HSC workshop. We now have advocates working in the HSC for us that are sending out the message as well. The people building the beehives are working towards a very worthwhile cause. It's a win for them. It's a win for us because we're educating everybody else in the local community on what they can do in their local gardens. And all these things start from one particular small step. Again, we've Noel Carroll here speaking to David Nally. David implementing measures that you saw in the first photograph on the presentation, put a buffer zone in place. He's got his neighbours involved. Now we have a line of farmers involved in the project. So start somewhere, start small, but make a start. It's so important. Acknowledging farmers' efforts and reward them and to motivate them as well. We found this is really important. Every farmer that took place in the project has received a plaque that goes up outside their gate or their farmyards or their buildings or the fences that they put in place. And you can see from the photographs, there's a great sense of pride, happiness of when people receive these plaques. You know, what these farmers and their families are doing across the county, it's akin to street lights or to public footpaths. They're putting in infrastructure on their land that will protect the local group water scheme source. So they have to be acknowledged, they have to be rewarded. And something as simple as a plaque has a good feel-good factor. And it's nice to reward people for doing something decent in their community. I'm going to finish up with this slide. I suppose the weekend that's coming up, I couldn't let it pass. Mayo being in another All-Ireland final. One of our footballers from Ballintubber, Jeremy O'Connor, he made a last-ditch attempt to keep a ball in play. It was kicked, it was retrieved, it was fielded and kicked for a point, which led to a game going into extra time, which led to Mayo winning a semi-final. And it's the accumulation of all of these small but significant actions which will help us in our group water scheme sector as we go along with these implementation plans. You know, people often ask, how is protecting one field going to help? It's the accumulation of all these actions that'll help. So as I said before, source protection is not something that should be done. It's not something that's an add-on or you'd like to do. It's something that has to be done. It'll save money for the exchequer going down the future. It's much cheaper to prevent contaminants getting into water than to take them out again. It's better for involving local communities as well because our actions have a knock-on effect. They help biodiversity, help climate as well. So this project is all about wins. It's about wins for the farmers. It's about wins for the rural communities. It's about wins for the government as well. Okay, thanks very much.